Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because we're tackling a topic that, might sound a little dry on the surface, but it's actually a dynamic, literal, life-saving operational philosophy. We are talking about transforming routine maintenance from this sort of bureaucratic checklist of chores into a robust system of absolute certainty. We are diving deep into the Quality Maintenance Assurance Procedure, or QMA.
I want to start by asking you to think about a pretty critical question. What actually happens when maintenance goes wrong? Sure, in low-stakes environments, maybe it's just an inconvenience. But in high-stakes environments, we're talking power plants, chemical processing facilities, nuclear plants, relying solely on an individual mechanic's gut feeling or memory instead of a highly structured process, that can lead to catastrophic failure. We aren't just talking about broken machines here, we are talking about jeopardizing human safety and causing massive operational shutdowns. We desperately need a safety net, and that is exactly what this process provides.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the philosophy of QMA. Then, Phase 1, plan and prepare. Next up, Phase 2, execute and inspect. Followed by Phase 3, test and restore. And finally, tracking success and improvement.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the philosophy of Q&A. Let's zoom out to see what this means at a macro level.
Basically, quality maintenance assurance is not just about turning a wrench. It is the ultimate safety net. It's this highly systematic process ensuring that every single aspect of maintenance is planned, executed, inspected, tested, documented, and absolutely verified before a machine ever gets turned back on. Its primary objectives are to prevent maintenance errors before they even happen, ensure regulatory compliance, maximize equipment reliability, and, most importantly, guarantee the safety of everyone on site.
Now, it is absolutely critical to clearly separate two terms that we often hear lumped together: quality assurance versus quality control. Quality assurance is process-oriented. It's all about the overarching planning, the training, and establishing approved procedures to prevent quality problems from ever happening in the first place. Quality control, on the other hand, is inspection-oriented. It's the boots-on-the-ground measurement and verification that detects problems and confirms the results actually meet the requirements. Think of QA as writing the perfect recipe, and QC as tasting the dish before it goes out to the customer.
Moving right along to Section 2, Phase 1, plan and prepare. Let's look at the ground-level execution using a real-world example, a large centrifugal pump that started experiencing abnormal vibration.
This phase covers the first 3 workflow steps of our 9-step model. It kicks off with Step 1, identification. We've detected that abnormal vibration in our pump, so we evaluate the condition and fire up a work order. Step 2 is planning. This is where we lock down the exact work scope, gather the drawings, and figure out what spare parts and safety gear we need. Step 3 is preparation. We formally check readiness. This means securing permits, completely isolating the pump's electrical and mechanical energy, and verifying our tools. And here's a detail you cannot ignore: checking the calibration status of measuring instruments, like torque wrenches or vibration meters, is essential right from the start. If your tool isn't calibrated, you might literally make a dangerous, incorrect decision during the repair.
Properly pulling off these early stages requires a super coordinated team where everybody has a strictly defined responsibility. You have the planner handling the work scope and resource requirements, the supervisor is there ensuring work execution and procedure compliance on site, the technician actually performs the work and records the measurements. Meanwhile, the QA/QC team verifies compliance and manages hold points, and operations oversees the critical equipment isolation and eventual operational release. It is a complete ecosystem where communication is absolutely everything.
Let's jump into Section 3, Phase 2, execute and inspect. We're planned and prepped, so now we transition into the active, wrench-turning phase to see how this plan becomes reality.
This brings us to Step 4, execution, and Step 5, inspection. During execution, the technician actively disassembles the pump, following the approved sequence perfectly. They check the coupling, replace those defective bearings causing our vibration, and perform shaft alignment. Immediately following this is Step 5, where we verify the quality of that exact workmanship. We're doing visual checks for leaks or missing components, and dimensional inspections to ensure clearances and alignments are perfectly within tolerance.
To capture the data during those steps, we actively record objective evidence. For instance, comparing a required bolt torque of 120 Newton meters against an actual reading of 118 Newton meters, or verifying shaft alignment is within specified limits. We aren't just guessing the work was done. We are scientifically proving that the work was performed correctly and safely.
So the crucial point when it comes to inspections is understanding the difference between two concepts, hold points and witness points. A witness point means an authorized person is invited to observe a critical activity, but work can usually proceed. A hold point, however, that is a hard stop. For important activities like bearing installation on our centrifugal pump, work simply cannot proceed until the inspection is formally approved. It is an unpassable gate ensuring quality is completely locked in before the machine is closed up.
Let's move to Section 4, Phase 3, Test and Restore, because simply reassembling the equipment definitely does not mean the maintenance is complete.
We are now entering Steps 6, 7, and 8. Step 6 is testing, where we functionally verify the pump actually works. But what if it fails? What if the vibration is still way too high? That triggers Step 7, non-conformance control. We don't just ignore it or force it to work, we issue a non-conformance report, investigate the root cause, maybe it's a foundation issue or mechanical looseness, repair it, and retest. Once testing is perfectly satisfactory, we hit Step 8, restoration. We remove temporary barriers, restore the valves, and formally hand the equipment and its documentation back over to operations.
To give you an idea of just how thorough Step 6 is, here's the specific, rigorous sequence of testing our centrifugal pump has to undergo. We start with a no-load initial check, then startup. We meticulously check pressure, flow, our initial culprit of vibration, temperature, and leakage, all before we finally confirm stable operation. It literally has to pass this entire gauntlet before it can be trusted by operations to run a critical facility.
Finally, let's zoom back out to the macro level for Section 5, Tracking Success and Improvement. This covers our 9th and final step.
Step 9 is documentation and record control. The stakes here are perfectly captured by this industry truth. If it is not documented, it is difficult to demonstrate that it was done correctly. Actually, scratch that. If it isn't documented, it basically didn't happen. Maintaining work orders, calibration records, test results, and equipment history isn't just busy work. Traceability is absolutely mandatory for future audits and for understanding the long-term health of your equipment.
But how do we know if our QMA system is actually working? Well, we use key performance indicators. One of the most powerful metrics you can track is the first-time right percentage. This is simply the number of correct maintenance jobs completed without needing any rework, divided by the total number of maintenance jobs. A high first-time right percentage directly reflects that your planning, execution, and inspections are hitting the mark the very first time. It saves money, it saves time, and it drastically reduces risk.
Ultimately, quality maintenance assurance doesn't just end when the work order closes. It forms this incredible continuous improvement loop. If you see a recurring problem, like a repeated bearing failure in our pump, you analyze the root cause. Maybe the procedure itself needs updating, or perhaps a completely different lubrication practice is required. You improve the program, update your preventative maintenance intervals, and monitor future performance. It is a living, breathing system that constantly upgrades itself.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Look closely at your own operations and ask yourself, is your maintenance truly assured, or are you just repairing equipment? Quality maintenance is for sure not just fixing what's broken. It's about ensuring every single action is planned, controlled, verified, and continuously improved to protect your people and your facility. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep improving, and I'll see you next time.
Quality maintenance ensures every job is planned, inspected, tested, verified, and properly documented.